It's Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by my good friend and Hall of Fame promoter, Frank Warren. Frank, these big days just keep on happening now. It's like second nature to you. Wembley Stadium one week, Riyadh the next. What's going on?
Well, Riyadh season has come to Wembley. It's the Wembley edition on the 21st of September, and we've got a fabulous show there, fabulous fight, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it's like a snowball rolling down that hill. But fight-wise, it's a fabulous card, and I can't wait for the show. And that main event is something special, no doubt about that.
Now, we know some of the fights have only come together over the last couple of days. I think they were saying yesterday, Shiraz against Tyler Denny, for example. He had to wait until Denny got past Felix Cash last weekend. But how long has the concept of having a Riyadh season show at Wembley been in the works? How long have you been thinking about doing it?
It's quite a few months now. It was decided back then, and we obviously booked the date and so forth. But there were fights that wanted, as you mentioned, fights that had to be made. It's only a few weeks ago, whatever it was, just roughly a month ago that Daniel had won the title. But at that time, it was for the winner to be fighting AJ on that date at Wembley as the Wembley edition. But I was always confident it was going to be an all-British affair.
Yeah, I mean, there was some talk. We interviewed Joseph Parker a few weeks ago, and he said that he was hearing initially it was going to be AJ against Wilder at Wembley. Wilder obviously lost to Zhang, and Parker thought that he'd be fighting the Hrgović Dubois winner.
There's all sorts of talk going on, but I was always confident from the beginning that it would be Daniel. I was very confident Daniel would come through that fight. Although the first couple of rounds against Hrgović, he did get caught a few times with that right hand. But having said that, he came through it and did what he had to do in great style.
You've been talking about Daniel fighting Anthony Joshua for years, like back when it was, you and Eddie Hearn were still on non-speaking terms. You were saying then you felt that your man would have the beating of Joshua.
Look, styles make fights, and it's a good job probably that it didn't happen back then, because he's a much better fighter now. He's more mature physically, and he's certainly more mature mentally now. I've noticed that certainly in the last year, certainly after the Usyk fight. He's changed, and he's come out of being this sort of, I'm not saying he's an extrovert, but he was very much quite introverted, and he's now, he's found his feet and standing up to say what he's got to say. I mean, yesterday we did a round table thing with the Zone, and it got to us, it was all the usual sort of banter and the discussions were, who's going to win the fight, how they're going to win it, and you're going backwards and forwards. And then it got a little bit out of hand. And, he sort of made me sort of turn my head, and as he did actually against Hrgović when they were talking around the table. It was all sort of, Hrgović was quite confident, all what he was going to do, talking about, what happened when he was a kid and all this stuff. And then he was asked, I think I remember what he was asked at the time. He said to Daniel, so Hrgović said he's going to beat you because you've got no balls. What's going to happen to you? What are you going to do to him? He said, I'm going to beat to see you next Tuesday. And I nearly fell off my chair. I've never heard him swear before. And that was it. And this one, again, was quite interesting. So, you've got two big punches in there. You've got a guy who's going in Daniel's last two fights, he's gone in as an underdog in both those fights and come through them all. And next fight, he'll be an underdog. I've seen with the bookmakers, he's an underdog. But I'm telling you, as he fought the one, well, I love that. I'm going to have some of that, because I'm telling you, he will. It's going to put a lot of pressure. The pressure on this for this fight is all on AJ. It's not on Daniel. It's on AJ, because a lot of people expect it to be I'm not saying a formality, but a lot of people fancy it to win. But I'm telling you something, I've seen AJ win fights, and I've seen him lose fights, and I've seen him when he's been put on the back foot. And I believe Daniel has the tools and has the desire and has the wherewithal to make that happen. And I think he can stop him.
And you mentioned the round table discussion just there. Is that the infamous one that Eddie Hearn was talking about at length yesterday, where it kicked off?
Yeah. Somebody told me about it. They sent me that thing, and so that, I suppose when people see it, they'll see it and they'll see for themselves. It was quite interesting.
Well, tell us what happened from your perspective, because Eddie Hearn's version is quite pro AJ, I think it's fair to say.
Well, he's there doing what he's got to do for his man. Well, watch it. People make their own decision. There was the backwards and forth. I think then Daniel said what he had to say, stood up and said what he had to say. I mean, basically said to him, if you want it, let's have it now, right now. And then it got a little bit of, bit of backwards and forth. But, I'm going to speak for Daniel. Daniel did not take a step back and certainly stood his ground and probably initiated it, to be quite honest.
Did that give you...
Which is not like him.
Yeah, so did that give you confidence in him? Like more confidence?
No, I've always had confidence in him. I mean, I know what happened I know what happened in the two losses, and certainly that one against Joe Joyce, who fought really well that night. It was a really good fight, and the judges had it. If he'd have won the last two rounds, he would have won it on the judges' scorecard. But and Joe done a job and busted him up badly. That eye area was really in a bad state, kept him out of the ring for a long time. And he did the right thing. Otherwise, his career would have been over, because he'd have detached his retina. And you don't come back from boxing to box when you've had a detached retina. It's all over for you. So it was the right thing to do. And the one against Usyk was a big step up for him. He stepped up and he hurt Usyk. He hurt him in that fight. And I'm not going to argue about low blows, high blows, and all that. I've said what I've got to say about it. But it was a good fight for me. You learn from fights as well, and you learn what you should have done and what you could have done. And he's learned from that. And I think that we've seen in the last few fights, you've seen how he's now mentally hard and mentally different. He's matured in as much that, I've seen what Hrgović was saying before the fight, heard what he said. And Hrgović had a good first couple of rounds, had very good first couple of rounds, catching him with shots. And he gritted his teeth and done what he had to do. And it's the same with Miller. I mean, Miller's really good at the old, psychology, and they're undefeated fighters, by the way. Yeah. And one was a mandatory challenger that nobody seemed to want to fight. And with Miller, he was mentally getting into him, but he stood his ground with him and showed what a dangerous fighter he is at any time in a fight, and stopped him in the last round. He's a great finisher. He's probably the best finisher, if not one of the best finishers in boxing. He gets you in trouble, you've got a problem. He smells blood, you've got it. And that for me is going to be interesting with AJ. This is, as I said at the press conference yesterday, this is going to be about the battle of the jabs. They both got good jabs. Seeing AJ's last fight, how he used the jab against Ngannou, jab to the body, let that right hand go over the top. And he was very successful doing it, at least 3 or 4 times in a couple of rounds, and the same result. And the fight with Hrgović, once he started doubling up his jab and letting that right hand go, it was a different fight, and he busted him up. And I think the round before the referee stopped it, he was gone. If that had gone another 10 seconds, that round, I think it'd have knocked him over. And they're great rounds to get in the bank. They're great fights to be involved with. They suddenly in your mind think, you know what, I'm here. I'm at the same level with these guys. I did actually hurt Usyk. He got 4 minutes to recover. He was given all that extraordinary amount of time to recover. All those things, you look at it and look where he is now. And this is a big fight. I mean, I know there's all that nonsense gone around about the sparring and all that. What I mean by nonsense, what's being said, the same as the Hrgović stuff. But I know what I was told happened from reliable people, but I'm not going to go into it. It is what it is. He was a kid. He was 17 at the time. AJ's what, 34, 35 now? Yeah. Daniel's 26. So, there's a man and a boy back then. And he has matured now. And I just feel that jab, both of them, they've got to battle it out with that jab. And what is going to do it is this. It's going to be about the ticker. And it's be about the mindset. And Daniel Dubois' mindset, and he certainly showed in his last 2 fights, his ticker's very strong.
While Daniel's been getting the job done inside the ring, you've received a lot of credit, rightly so, for the job you've done with him outside the ropes. You know, he had that loss to Joe Joyce, devastating loss, both physically and emotionally. You've brought him back to a high position with the WBA. He's won that belt. He's got the shot at Usyk, lost, unfortunately, but a valiant effort. You've brought him back again to a position where he's got those big Saudi fights. Now he's IBF world champion. He elevated from the interim title. How does the job you've done with him promotionally compare to some of the big success stories over the years?
Well, it's, I'm pleased for him. I mean, you got to have the, if you've got the faith in the guy you're working with, you do it. I mean, we did the same with Anthony Yard. Got 2 losses, got him back into the #1 spot. You know, it was there to be done. Frank Bruno, although he's lost his 3 times he fought for the world title, weren't with me. When he came with me, we got him. I believed that he could beat Oliver McCormack. I genuinely believe it. We pulled all the stops out to get the fight on at Wembley, and he'd done the business. And it's over the years, we've guided our guys and made the right fights at the right time. This is a big fight for him. I mean, it's not an easy job by any means, any stretch of the imagination. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns before we even get to the fight. You know, it's part of the Riyadh season. It's the Wembley edition of the Riyadh season. So His Excellency and his team and everybody's got behind us this. To help get this over, to help make this happen, had made it happen. It's a big advert for what's going on with a fantastic undercard, but it's enabled us to keep pushing our guys, all our guys, and certainly as far as Daniel's concerned, push him into a position where he can firmly establish himself. He's the champion. He wins this fight. Then you got the guys fighting in December, 3 belts on the line. You get the 4 belts on the line again next year. That certainly can happen. For me, Daniel's done what he's had to do. We've kept the faith with him. We've believed in him. If I'm involved with a fighter and the fighter gives me the 100%, they get it back from us as well. Time and time again, we've done that, and we'll continue. And I do think we do the job. I'll say better than anyone, but we certainly do it more regularly than anybody. That's for sure. More regularly than anybody, and a lot of these fighters that come through are not coming from Olympic backgrounds either. They're guys maybe have not gone to the Olympics, or they've not a bit, maybe their faces didn't fit the amateur scene, and they've come with us. But we've built and worked hard with them, and that's all come to fruition. And certainly as far as Daniel's concerned. I'm delighted what he's done. I think we've done an excellent job, and I think he's done an excellent job in the ring. And he's proved a lot of people wrong, especially some ex-fighters, some people who've got agendas and whatever. He's gone and done what he's had to do. He's done the business in the ring. This is where it counts. This is what I'm all about. This is what I can do, and he's done it.
Now, the day before the big launch press conference, people were still questioning whether it definitely was going to be Dubois in the opposite corner to AJ. Zhilei Zhang was mentioned. I think Joseph Parker, we knew it wouldn't be him. And then Oleksandr Usyk drops the video confirming that he's giving up, or giving it as a gift, the IBF title in his words, to the winner of the fight. Obviously, we didn't realise at the time that Daniel had actually been elevated and would be defending the belt. How did you feel about that? Did it kind of steal your thunder a little bit? Because he revealed Joshua's opponent before you guys did.
No, not from my point of view. I mean, he did what he had to. He put that out there. He didn't gift it. I mean, what happened was that he either had to defend against the interim champion, it was Daniel, or he had to vacate, or they would have stripped him. That's their rules. And they've done it with big name fighters, as you know, in the past. I mean, they've done it with Crawford, didn't they? One of his belts, and some big fighters they've done it because they're based in the States. They have rules and regulations, and those rules and regulations they follow them quite strongly, because they're terrified that if they don't, they'll get sued, or they will be in trouble with the authorities there, because, as I say, they're based in the States. The fact it was the IBF title, the fact that we manoeuvred our guy, which we did manoeuvre our guy into that position, that's the business we're in. And he's getting a massive payday in a massive rematch. Again, part of the Riyadh season on the 21st of December in Riyadh itself. That rematch is a much, much bigger fight. And although the belts are on the line, 3 of the belts are on the line, I don't think it's about the belts. Certainly for Tyson, Tyson, it's about winning that fight, showing what he should have done in the first fight, which is to stop Usyk.
We will talk about Tyson in due course, but let me just ask you a couple of things about Joshua. Yesterday, he said that the friendship between yourself and Eddie Hearn is fake. That's something that Eddie Hearn rebuffed in interviews later on. What's your take on that?
Takes a fake to know a fake.
Ooh, scathing. But
Not scathing, it's how it is. Look, you say it's a friendship. We've got a good working relationship. We work, and it's been for the benefit of boxing upstairs yet. Maybe it puts his nose out of joint. I don't know what it is, but we're not bosom buddies. We're not out and about. We've structured a relationship that's very friendly and it's good. Why would he go down that road? He says these things. We're not fake. We say how it is. We don't make out with somebody we're not. That's not what happens here. I don't make out. I tell people where I come from, where I started out when I was young and so forth, what I've done, and what's happened, and that's it. I don't try and change it. I don't get, I won't go into that. Remember, he should remember. I know him, and I know a lot of people who were around him when he was young, and I can spot a fake when I see him. So don't worry about that.
would you class Eddie as a friend?
I've got friends of mine from when I was a kid. We don't speak on the phone every day. He spends more time speaking with George. I mean, they're the ones who do most of it. But when we meet, we've had quite a few lunches when we've been like, for example, when we were in Riyadh, we're all out there. We had some lunches, some dinners, and yeah, it's all been good. Talk about boxing, and there's a common interest there. And I suppose the fact that you're speaking, you get a what do you get? You get you see somebody in a different light. What I mean by a different light, when we're doing these interviews, and especially on some of the channels you're on, there's a bit of clickbait goes out there. You might bite it.
Those horrible channels, not us. We'd never do that.
It's all that nonsense. But no, how can anybody complain what's happening at the moment in boxing? How can anybody even start criticising that? If they think it's fake, then they think it's fake. But is it affecting what's going on? No, it's not, because we're delivering fights. And one thing we are delivering is we're not delivering fights that are not competitive. They're not fake fights. They're real good quality matches. Good quality matches. And I believe in Daniel Dubois, and I believe he will cement his place as being a world champion on the 21st and go on to fight for a unified title. I genuinely believe that.
Now, Joshua,
I mean, he said a few things about Tyson yesterday as well.
I was just about to say, yeah, I was just coming on to that.
What's he called him? Someone was telling me this morning. I haven't seen it. Somebody told me he said something about Tyson.
He did an interview with our colleagues, friends at IFL, and he said that Tyson didn't pay Usyk enough respect in the build-up to the first fight. Maybe that's why he didn't treat him appropriately in the fight. But he also said, this was the one that drew the most attention, that there's no way Tyson will ever beat Usyk.
We will see. We will see. Listen, can Tyson do what he couldn't do? Because there was no way he beat him on 2 occasions. We will see. So let's see if Tyson proves him wrong on the 21st. One thing's for sure, he didn't beat him.
No. What did you make of Tyson's interview that we saw recently on the Ferocity channel? Because that's drawn a lot of attention, saying it felt too easy, or an easy fight against Usyk, like fighting a local amateur. I think they were the standout quotes. Local to Kyiv.
I don't know about local. Listen, he's a very good fighter, Usyk, and I don't know. I haven't seen the interview, by the way, but I have actually, I have some of the things heard. What do I think about that? I think it's a very close fight. It was a very close fight. You've asked me before who I thought won it, and I thought Tyson done enough to just win it. A lot of people said it was the other way. And a lot of good judges, people who are neutrals like Thomas Hauser and quite a few people I know in the States, had it the same thing, either a draw or one. Some had it to Usyk, a couple had it to Tyson. That was the type of fight it was. It took a lot out of both of the guys. It was a fight of two halves, no doubt about that. I thought Tyson won the first half of the fight, and I think what the easy part of it he was talking about up until that round. I think it was the eighth, seventh, eighth round when he got caught on the nose.
Oh yeah, the eighth, yeah.
Up until then, I thought he was really starting to look. He was very comfortable. He was catching him with shots, and I remember the feeling. We were all sitting where we were sitting watching the fight. A lot of people felt and said he's going to do him in the next round, but he didn't. He got caught on the nose, and it took away a lot of his composure. And if you watch him, he keeps touching his head and touching his nose, and it obviously done some damage there. And that was a little bit of a turning point for Usyk in the fight. And obviously, the next round, he nearly had him out on his feet. But Tyson came back in the fight, won the last round, and it was what it was. But I went in the dressing room, as I said to you before, after the fight. Both guys gave everything, and they both knew they was in a fight. There's no doubt about that. And I genuinely think the next one will be a great fight. And I do think Tyson will reverse what happened in the first fight.
If Tyson genuinely believes it felt easy or it felt comfortable while he was in there, is that a concern in that he won't work on the things that went wrong?
Well, no, he'll work on. He knows what he's got to do. But you've got to look at him in that fight. Just a couple of times in the fight, he's messing about, isn't he? He's up on his toes. He's dancing around. He's moving around, dropping his hands and that. He done that, and I'd have preferred, to be honest, he didn't do that. But he does that in fights. When he's comfortable, he does things like that. I think the fight will be much different next time. I do think it'll be a different fight because I've seen in there what Tyson can do when he's focusing on it. You've seen what he can do in a fight, and it's whether he allows Usyk back into the fight as he got into it in those latter rounds. But I thought, it was a very, very close fight. I ain't complaining about decision. The decision's the decision. That's where we are. One of the judges gave it to Tyson. It's a close decision.
Quick couple of questions on the September 21st undercard, which is very impressive. There was some fights we were expecting, some pleasant surprises. Hamza Shiraz is #1 in the world with 2 of the governing bodies at middleweight. Why is Tyler Denny the right fight for him at the right time?
Because the 2 champions are tied up in fights at the moment. So he's got to have a fight. And Tyler Denny has just beaten Felix Cash, and he's available. And it's a nice domestic British fight. European fight, by the way.
Would it have been Felix Cash if he'd won?
Yeah, I think so.
But Tyler Denny's coming off upsetting the apple cart, and now he's got another opportunity to do the same thing. He's on a real run of doing that.
Well, that's the business that these guys are in. I mean, they go out there, they take advantage of the situation. We've seen it happen before, and I'm sure it's going to happen again. He's going to have to be at his best, Hamza, and Hamza's a very capable fighter. Again, come through our system. Not a guy who was well known. I'll say was known as an amateur, but not a massive. Didn't come in with a glittering, gold medal or Olympian and all that stuff. He came in and he's had, I think Queensbury, I think all the team around him have done a brilliant job for him. So he is where he is now, and he can't afford to slip up.
Now, along with HE and Sella and yourself, Eddie, Spencer Brown, you've kind of created this whole Riyadh season thing. It's gaining momentum, and Boxer, Sky Sports have shown some of the fights, but Boxer as a promotional entity were largely shut out from it for quite some time. Why now has Ben Shalom and Boxer been allowed into the fold, if you like?
Well, it's not allowed into. I mean, first of all, it's the Riyadh season, and it's part of the Riyadh season. It's about delivering good fights. The Buatsi fight against Willie Hutchinson, that was going to purse bids. So he's involved with Boxer. So a deal was done and struck with Boxer to make that fight for Wembley, which is a very attractive fight to be putting on the card. And for me, as Willie Hutchinson's promoter, I think it's a really good fight for him.
A lot's been made about Eddie Hearn meeting Ben Shalom, you meeting Eddie Hearn some time ago now. Have you had a conversation with Ben in person yet?
Not really, not much. No,
Would you like to? You bothered?
it's not top of my wish list, but you know, it is what it is.
Is it?
I can think of a lot more people I'd like to meet.
You've got all the UK kind of TV promoters working on this show at the moment with due respect to GBM Sports, who've recently done a TV deal, of course, but you've got yourself, the Sauerlands, Wasserman Boxing, who work with Channel 5 and The Zone, you, Eddie, Ben. What does it say about Riyadh season and boxing in the UK that all the major UK promoters are now on one show together?
But it's not the first time. I mean, that's
First
been
time in a
that's
long time, though.
I mean, no, it's not Riyadh season. We've had Wasserman's on before. Ben Shalom's had a fighter, I think, on the card before. It's not the first time it's happened.
I didn't think Ben had. I know Wasserman obviously
No,
had
he
a
has.
head
I can't
condition.
think what the fight is. I can't think who the fighter is, but he's definitely had a fighter on the card.
Should we expect this to continue in future Riyadh season events?
We'll see what fighters he's got.
Do you rate his stable as it stands?
There's a couple of fighters there who I like, whose
Not just the
contracts
two
are
that are
ending
on the show,
soon.
hopefully.
There's a couple of fighters whose contracts I understand are ending soon, and they'll be free agents, and we'll see. We'll find out.
I'm glad there's still a competitive element in all of this. You're not all friends all the time. Just before I let you go, I think Eddie was questioned about this yesterday, but the record attendance for boxing at Wembley, you'll know well, is Tyson against Dillian White, 94,000 people. But there's been talk that HE might want to apply to raise the attendance limit to 100,000 and break the record with this show. What can you tell us about that?
Well, you can only do what your local authorities allow you to do, and we managed to get it in 94. When Tyson fought against Dillian White, there were 200, sorry, there was nearly 400, it went up at the end, 400,000 people in the queue trying to buy tickets. So if we'd had a 400,000 seat stadium, we'd have 400,000 people there. So this one, I expect it to be an absolute burster. I think this is going to be a sellout event. And if we can get 100,000 people in there, we would get them in there. If we can get 120,000 people in there, we will get 120,000. Now, that's not going to happen, 120,000, but it'd be great to be able, for the local authorities, because it all depends about the local residents as well. And it's not just about getting the people in the stadium, it's getting them home. It's making sure the transport's available. It's making sure that, lots and lots of different things, safety aspect, providing we can conform with them. I'd love to get 100,000 in there, and fingers crossed we do that.
And just before I let you go, and I said that for the previous question, but I should ask, has there been any development update on the Anthony Yarde situation at all?
No, not at all. I mean, it's a shame he withdrew from the fight with Josh Buatsi, and obviously guys in, and it is what it is. I mean, there's, as I said, the lawyers will handle it, and they'll handle it. Simple as that.
And that would have been on this show, presumably.
That's what the offer was, yeah.
It is a shame in that case, but hopefully it can be resolved going forward. Frank,
Well,
really,
we will see.
Brilliant. Frank, really appreciate it. Congratulations, another big event, and yeah, let's hope we get the 100,000.
It's great, and don't forget the tickets are on sale midday Friday, tomorrow that is, and get in that queue now, because this Wembley edition of the Riyadh season is going to be a burster, and we're all looking forward to these fantastic fights and this magnificent top of the bill.
Great stuff. Frank, really appreciate it, mate.
Thanks, Dan.
Take care.